With the upheaval of new land in the South Pacific, tremendous events began. Some of the marine cities were hopelessly shattered, and yet that was not the worst misfortune. Another race, a land race of beings shaped like octopi, and probably corresponding to the fabulous pre-human spawn of Cthulhu, soon began filtering down from cosmic infinity and precipitated a monstrous war which for a time drove the Old Ones wholly back to the sea. A colossal blow in view of increasing land settlements. Later, peace was made and the new lands were given to the Cthulhu spawn, while the Old Ones held the sea and the older lands. New land cities were founded, the greatest of them in the Antarctic. For this region of first arrival was sacred. From then on, as before, the Antarctic remained the center of the Old Ones' civilization, and all the discoverable cities built there by the Cthulhu spawn were blotted out. Then suddenly the lands of the Pacific sank again, taking with them the frightful stone city of Ruleway and all the cosmic octopi, so that the Old Ones were again supreme on the planet, except for one shadowy fear about which they did not like to speak. At a rather later age, their cities dotted all the land and water areas of the globe. Hence, the recommendation of my coming monograph that some archaeologists make systematic borings with Pabley type of apparatus in certain widely separated regions. The study's trend down the edges was from water to land, and a movement encouraged by the rise of the land masses, though the ocean was never wholly deserted. One of the cause of the landward movement was the new difficulty in breeding and managing the Shoggoths, upon which the successful land sea life had depended. With the march of time, as the sculptors sadly confessed, the art of creating new life in inorganic matter had been lost, so that the Old Ones had to depend upon the molding of forms already in existence. On land, the great reptiles proved highly tractable, but the Shoggoths of the sea, reproducing by fission and acquiring a dangerous degree of accidental intelligence, presented for a time a formidable problem. They had always been controlled through the hypnotic suggestion of the Old Ones, and had modeled their tough plasticity and various useful temporary limbs and organs, but now their self-modeling powers were sometimes exercised independently. And in various imitative forms planted by past suggestion, they had, it seems, developed a semi-stable brain whose separate and occasionally stubborn volition echoed the will of the Old Ones without always obeying it. Sculptured images of these Shoggoths filled Danforth and me with horror and loathing. They were normally shapeless entities composed of a vicious jelly which looked like an elugation of bubbles, and each averaged about 15 feet in diameter when a sphere. They had, however, a constantly shifting shape and volume, throwing out temporary developments of forming apparent organs of sight, hearing, and speech in imitation of their masters, either spontaneously or according to suggestion. They seem to have become peculiarly intractable towards the middle of the Permian Age, perhaps 150 million years ago, when a veritable war of resubjugation was waged upon them by the marine Old Ones. Pictures of this war and of the headless, slime-coated fashion in which the Shoggoths typically left their slain victims held a marvelously fearsome quality despite their intervening abyss of untold ages. The Old Ones had used curious weapons of molecular disturbance against the rebel entities, and in the end had achieved a complete victory. Thereafter, the sculptures showed a period in which the Shoggoths were tamed and broken by armed old ones, as the wild horses of the American West were tamed by cowboys. Though during the rebellion the Shoggoths had shown an ability to live out of water, this transition was not encouraged, since their usefulness on land would hardly have been commensurate with the troubles of their management.